Halloween
forever.
Hey, Steve, my boy, how you doing there? Hey, how's it going here?
Pretty good, Brian. Welcome to 2025. The future.
We're here. We're in the future. The future is now. Steve, I got one for you, as I always do. So this young man, he's in school. He gets called into he gets sent to the principal's office by his teacher. Because he's shooting spitballs, whatever a kid does to go to the principal's office. Gets there and the principal says, "Hey, what's your name, son?" And the kid says, "My name's David." And he says, "You got a stutter there, kid? What's going on?" And he says, "No, actually, my dad had a stutter, but the guy who filled out my birth certificate was a real asshole." Welcome, boys and girls, to a very special Rumble style showdown episode of Halloween's Forever. I'm Brian.
I'm Steve.
It was a name themed joke, Steve. You get?
Yes,
because we're talking about movies that have bad names in them. But holy shit, I wasn't just talking to old Stevie boy. I'm not just talking to our friends in the Patreon chat here in the Discord from Patreon. We got a full motherfucking house here tonight, Steve. Holy shit! Can you explain to the guest real quick, and we'll spare us the rules for now because we'll get into it in a second, but
sure,
explain to him why we got all these some bitches mean mugging me right now here in the Discord.
Brian, I've had this dream for a while since we started the show, but I've been very lazy about activating it. But every January, everybody knows that's Royal Rumble season.
Sure is. Rumble season, baby.
And I thought to myself, why can't I ever have a Rumble on my podcast? I think I've wanted a Rumble on, even dating back to Hop Nation USA, but I just never was able to implement it. But now we got the technology, we got the friends, we got the cast of characters, and I figured it out. And now we got ourselves a Rumble. And it's the first ever Halloween is Forever Regal Rumble, January 2025.
Regal Rumble for legal reasons. That is the name of our pay-per-view. The Regal Rumble, as a nod to Regal Cinemas, of course, but also so we don't get sued.
Right.
As if anybody of consequence listens to the show. In any case, I'm excited for this. When you emailed me about this, I mean, immediately tore my shirt off, started flexing my pecs. I talked like a big pop pump for the rest of the day. I was insulting people. I was throwing shit at people I just went full heel turn as soon as you threw out this idea to me. I'm absolutely loving this idea. Real quick, Steve, do you want to go around the horn here and introduce our competitors in the first, I hope, of many 2025 Regal Rumble?
Well, I think
and then we'll talk about the tip, and then we'll talk about what we're gonna the topic and all that shit.
Yeah. So part of this is I've invited back former champs, and I've invited even new guests to take part in the very first Regal Ruckus. Again, I want to make it even more legally distinct.
Ruckus. It
can't even
be
Rumble.
Let me reiterate: this is not a Rumble. It is a Ruckus. It is including, but not limited to, a Ruckus, a slobber knocker, a barn burner. It can be all those things, but the title card is going to say Regal Ruckus.
I'm not getting sued by WWE, but maybe Regal Cinemas and Wu-Tang Clan. That's possible.
Yeah. They don't own Ruckus. We're not spelling it. We're not just spelling it with a K, first of all. And second of all, so Wu-Tang Clan can kiss my ass. All right. As far as I'm concerned. I'm starting rap beefs here on the podcast too.
Brian's doing the one thing they told you not to do, and he's bringing the motherfucking Ruckus. We told him not to do that. I shouldn't have. God
damn it. I always fall into that rabbit hole. And then the other thing I want to say is I'm under the impression I don't think Regal Cinemas is in any position financially to sue anybody right now.
No, I don't think that's what I was going to say too.
So I think we're all right there. Anyway, so I all the legalese out of the way. Steve, explain how this is going to go and who our competitors are.
We have 5 entrants tonight, including myself, Brian, returning from his punishment of last about 2 months ago. Is that when you won and hurt us, Ben?
Yes.
Yeah, and then he was on there for around Christmas time too with you, right? Talking,
right.
Yeah.
But
We forgave and forget.
Look, he is a former champ, and he is a bit of a heel, so I'm bringing him in, and then maybe he just catches a beat down on this one, and then we send him packing. So.
Yeah.
Or I win and I bring something even worse to you guys for the second time in a row.
I don't know how you could do that.
And I bring hell upon these losers.
The last time was barely a movie, but we do welcome, always, our wonderful friend Bigfoot Ben, aka
Thank you.
Big Top Ben, aka Big Ween Ben.
Oh,
back to the show.
And I don't want to be a heel. I'm a nice guy, but man, if the shoe fits, I'm gonna wear it today, guys. Thank you very much.
You're a what kind of heel? You're a Kurt Angle heel, if anything. You're like an unaware because you're too nice to be a heel.
Yeah. Okay, I like that.
Yeah.
He plays the good guy, but still does bad things.
Right.
Yeah, I like that one. Thank you.
And then from the depths, straight out of the bog, we're bringing back the Boghag. Meg is back. Like, as all great part-timers, as the Brock Lesnar's and the Undertakers and the John Cena's go, she shows up for the important bits. And what's more important than a Regal Ruckus?
What up? Happy to be back.
The Boghag isn't showing up for a house show. You know what I mean? She's only showing up for the big pay-per-views, the marquee events. She's here. And I don't know if you've been listening to the podcast, but I want to say, and forgive me, I think it was Dan. It might have been Ron. It was one of our Patreon friends made Steve and I almost piss our pants the one night when we were talking about Meg. And they said, I said something about how I've been spreading this rumor that Meg is dead for a long time. And then she comes back and we pretend she's a ghost. It's a whole thing. But they did say, R.I.P. rest in ponies. And it was just a perfectly placed. And then Steve has since created some imagery around that, just teasing the next return. Again, very Undertaker like.
I was gonna say, very Undertaker. The cat that was sitting here was my pallbearer.
Yeah.
He was holding an urn. He's holding it up over his head.
Meow.
Meow. Wearing an ill-fitting suit.
And our final entrant to this evening's ruckus comes to us from all the way across the country, from Seattle. Hailing from Seattle is Hallow Ian of the Hallow Ian Horror Hour, featured on YouTube and local Seattle television network.
Yeah. Thanks for having me all. I am the host of Seattle's Scariety Show, where we feature independently made short films, music videos, interviews with filmmakers and horror authors, and have just an absolute blast making the show over the last 2 years for local TV. And you can see us on YouTube as well, as Steve mentioned.
Yep.
I love it.
And I guess since my character wears so much fringe, I'll just be bringing the madness tonight.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. The cream rises to the top. I'm excited. I'm excited for this because here's what I'm seeing. I'm looking around the room here. I know Ben is kind of a what's his freaking name? The Brian Danielson. Kind of a what's that guy's name? Brian Danielson, right?
You got it. Yeah.
Yeah, that was kind of an era that I didn't watch a whole lot. He kind of even looks like Ben, honestly, if I'm saying it. Ben's like a dark-haired version of Brian Danielson a little bit. He's a crowd pleaser. He's a face, okay? I'm starting to get a vibe. Ian, I know we just met. I'm starting to get a vibe. Ian's a little bit of a face as well, right? He's very nice. He's very polite. He's very well-spoken. Steve's a bit of a wild card. Me and Meg are going heel. I just have a feeling we're going full ass heel on this episode. And we have quite a variety of films, guys. If you'll recall, the topic that our social media friends and listeners, once again, if you want to help us vote on what our showdown topic's going to be, if you want to suggest topics, you're going to go on our spinning ass old wheel. So for the first Monday of every month, we pick them and then we vote on the social medias, and then somebody picks a topic, and then we have to pick movies associated with that topic. That topic this time was good movies with shitty names, shitty titles. Right. So we've each picked a movie that we think is a really awesome, fun movie, but has a really dog shit title. And we're going to talk about why that is the case here in a hot second. We have quite a variety of movies here. We have everything from like so bad it's good, funny, to very serious, to kind of disturbing, to very silly, and everything in between. So my point is, at some point, somebody's getting salt thrown in their eyes. I might turn out all the lights and they set the soles of someone's feet on fire, straight Papa Shango style. But I'm excited for this here slobber knocker. Before we get into it and we explain actually the rules, because there's going to be some very specific rules, going to be a little bit of a different structure than we normally do. I want to throw out once again, thank you for all those who've subscribed to Patreon. We've got a lot of new subscribers, especially since the spooky season this year. A lot of great new engagement, new folks in the chat and all that sort of stuff. We love to see that. If you're interested, go over to patreon.com/Halloween is forever. And you get a bunch of cool stuff. Steve's gave a nice rundown of that in the past, so I won't belabor that to you on this most festive of Regal Ruckus days. But you get a special extra bonus podcast series every single month, and it's coming down to the wire here, guys, wherein I think 2 months left. Steve, is that accurate? January and February to tune into our last 2 episodes of Youth Group is Forever, wherein I make Steve watch all these shitty right-wing Christian propaganda horror movies that are unwatchable trash, and we make fun of them. And before that, Steve made me watch all the fucking Fast and the Furious movies. But now it's going to switch back over to Steve, and he's got something up his sleeve, and he's dropping weird little hints in the podcast, and he's doing all kind of stuff to toy with my mind, fuck with me. And it's I'm scared. Yes. And I'm also a little bit horny, and I don't know what to think about that. But I'm having a lot of mixed feelings, Steve, and it's more of a fear boner, I think, really more than anything. But I'm scared, and I'm horny, and I'm excited, and that's all going to kick off in March. But I'm going to be bringing the pain for the last 2 episodes of Youth Group is Forever. So if you want to check that out, go over to patreon.com/Halloween is Forever, and also obviously follow us on the social medias. Real quick, before I forget, our guests here, because I will 100% forget, anybody, especially Ian, I know you've got some cool stuff going on over there. Where should we're at Halloween is Forever on pretty much all the platforms. If folks want to, and I want to hear a little bit more also about some of these cool projects you guys that you're doing, but also where should our listeners find you if they want to check out some of the projects you're doing?
Yeah, so the main place people can find us right now is on YouTube at Hallow Ian Horror Hour. That is Hallow Ian, so it's like Halloween, but IAN instead of EEN at the end there.
Yep.
And that's the main place to find us if you're not in the Seattle area right now. If you are listening and you're in the Seattle area, Channel 28's on Friday at 8 p.m. You can see us on SCC TV. We will be branching out. We actually just signed a contract with a distribution company that has said we'll be on streaming services by next spooky season. So new episodes and stuff will start popping up there, hopefully in August, September, October of next year.
Oh, hell yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Super excited to check it out.
Yeah, it's a really cool process. We've done 12 episodes now, and we released a VHS with Lunch Meat VHS, which was kind of a special. We did a winter holiday special for local TV recently, but it's just like been an amazing way for us to show off some really cool independent films. I heard Fish Piss mentioned on the podcast last week. The folks at Janice.Glick have actually had 2 of their short films air on our show.
Oh, nice.
We've interviewed a bunch of those folks. We've done a lot of branching out and doing like cool music videos. We had a Krampus impersonator come on the program to do an interview. So we do in-character interviews. And then it's just all about collaboration with horror folks around the nation. And I mean, mostly specifically in the Pacific Northwest, but we're trying to branch out as much as possible.
Right on.
That's awesome.
Cool.
I'm intrigued and alarmed that you are not only familiar with, but intimately know the people who made Fish Piss, because Fish Piss does come up on the podcast quite frequently. Steve made me watch Fish Piss. There are a lot of feelings were exchanged. But yes, this all sounds very, very fun. Definitely go check out Ian's YouTube, and then obviously if you're in the greater Seattle in the Pac Northwest area, check him out over there on channel 28, right?
Yep, channel 28.
Love it. Ben, Meg, what are you all up to? You guys doing anything special? You do anything fun that you want to call out?
I haven't worked in 15 days. I'm on like a 12-day bender. I've been drunk every day since, and it's been great.
Yeah.
If I had to promote anything now, I would say fuck dry January and support your local breweries.
Yeah.
Or if you do dry January, then drink Athletic Brewing.
That's right. Thank you. Keep me employed, please.
Yeah.
They do make some lovely non-alcoholic beers.
Yes, the best there is.
If you're a quitter. I'm just kidding. Meg, tell us about what you're up to. You've been making some of them non-alcoholic beers.
Yeah, guys. So I think most listeners know that I moved to Connecticut to work for Athletic Brewing Company. It's going great. Mm-hmm. It's very fun. I love it. Yeah, so you can follow them. I'm not really fully associated with all of that stuff, but you can follow Megan from the Black Lagoon. But I am transitioning over towards using my Bleeding Hearts Club Instagram to do more design work. I'm actually going back to school right now for psychology and design. So I'm working more on building that up right now. So that'll probably be the best way to find. But if you go to Megan from the Black Lagoon, you'll find the link to that Instagram right in the bio.
Sweet.
So very excited.
Yep. And I know Meg is careful about saying this, but I do want to say that everything she says and does here tonight is officially endorsed by her employer, by Athletic Brewing. I'm just kidding. All right. Speaking of making some of them beers, anybody drinking on a couple 2 Tree beers tonight? What's going on? Let's go around the horn. I'll go first. I'll kick it off so I don't put anybody on the spot. Speaking of employer, #EMP. I'm drinking on one of these festivals. I don't know if you've ever experienced one of these. They're known as the Champagne of beers. This is Miller High Life. I'm probably gonna drink about 6 or 8 of these here tonight. That's my plan. Because my belly's a little upset.
Sure.
So I got to keep it light.
Yeah, keep it light.
Just go about 6. Just go 6 or 8 High Lives.
I hear
That's
beer is perfect for that.
It actually does, and I don't know if this is something that my body has been abused, which it has, right? Actually, Steve and I have been talking recently where every single time somebody talks about a new movie we're going to do on the podcast, I go, "We did that, right?" And Steve goes, "No." And I say, "Are you sure?" And he says, "Yes." And then I explain, I have a vivid memory of us doing that on the podcast. And he goes, "No, you've just done drugs and your brain doesn't work right." And I say, "Oh, all right." And then we had a long, funny conversation about that the other night. But I think my body in general has this thing where, honestly, if my stomach's a little upset like it is tonight, and I think it's because I ate a whole bunch of leftover sauerkraut for lunch, so I got a little bubble guts.
Yeah.
Nothing gets my stomach settled down like a couple 2 Tree beers. I feel great. I feel great after. I'm like, oh, I'm kind of queasy. Let me drink 3 beers. Oh, hell yeah. Now I feel great. I don't know what to call that. I'm going to say a medical miracle.
Yeah.
But this is my second High Life here since we started recording. I feel like a fucking $1,000,000. All right, who wants to jump in here? Who wants to talk about what they're drinking on?
I'll go because I want to directly follow you because this is going to be my, as I said, I'm coming in hot today, and I will challenge your champagne of beers.
Ew.
With a platter of champagne and vodka Jello shots.
Damn, dude. Why did we never do that with Snackies?
I thought that was like a cheese tray for a second.
I thought he had deviled eggs for 2 seconds.
I did too, actually. Yeah. I thought they were deviled eggs too.
That would be even better. Yeah. But no, I got a little leftover tray from our New Year's Eve party.
I'm
gonna be snacking on.
So it's so I know Jello makes champagne flavored Jello, so that's what it is with vodka, not actual champagne.
No, this is actual champagne and vodka with gelatin.
Oh, okay.
No Jello powder was harmed in this.
All right, I feel better about that then.
And when those run out, I got some Three Floyds Christmas Klaus.
Oh,
Some Three
lovely.
Floyds Klaus.
Yeah.
I'll be drinking that. Yeah.
Nice. Man,
That's my combo.
Ben and I have started the night off serious. He's doing
Ready to party.
leftover Jello shots. I ate a pound of sauerkraut and I'm chasing with High Life. Who wants to go next? Is anybody drinking bleach? Is anybody just drinking?
All of that.
Hard to follow. I am not living that bachelor life like this.
Yeah.
I'm not doing dry January. I have been living a very sober-ish life, dabbling in the THC, but I also still drink. So with that in mind, I am supporting a Connecticut brewery, Thimble Island, and I have their American ale. It kind of reminds me of just like an older style, like American pale ale, like, you know, from like 2010.
I love these fucking throwback styles that are coming back, dude.
Yeah. I love how like nautical themed though. A lot of breweries do things out here though. It's kind of cute. It's pretty sick.
Yeah, we've had some. I'll throw out Jesus Christ, what's the name of the beer that does up in Williamsport that does all the hazy IPAs and everything? I can't even say Tired Hands. It's not Tired Hands. What's the one that has all the New Trail? Jesus Christ, New Trail, the brewing company. Which I'm not a big hazy IPA guy, so I don't drink a lot of the New Trail beers, but they have that crisp, which is just like an American lager, right? Just kind of slightly hoppy American lager. It's pretty nice. They just released one that's just a straight up amber lager, like a slightly hoppy amber lager. I'm like, who the fuck's making amber lagers right now?
You know,
But I'm buying it and I'm drinking the fuck out of it.
Like a very distinct moment, like when I first moved to Pittsburgh, and like it was so weird to do anything other than like, you know, just like a standard amber ale. Like I was working at Rivertown, so Scottish ale. Oh my god!
Oh yeah,
holy shit! Like it blows my mind. It's just like now it's weird to be like, you know, this like amber lager over here makes me pretty happy, but also it feels mildly surreal. Like somehow I'm like, did someone miss an era that we're like,
it's coming back around. If I would have said 5 years ago, like, hey, this brewery that's like red hot right now was going to be putting out a 15 pack of their American amber lager, that would have been laughed out of the room.
Absolutely.
And now I love it. I love that we're just getting back to fucking beer flavored beers, man. And as a curmudgeonly craft beer guy who's been in the game for 15 years and has, you know, oh God, more than that now, and has been, you know, through all the ups and the downs and the hazies and the sours and the wackiness and all this stuff. Like, it's cool to just like drink some fucking nice beers you can drink in quantity without dying or getting diabetes. So, all right,
and
I'll get off.
Isn't that what was what Fat Tire was too? And they just changed that recipe big time, right?
Yeah, big breweries. I mean, they're they're always behind the trends a little bit there, and you know they obviously have just set the world on fire with their IPAs, and especially like New Belgium's IPAs are the mass market IPAs now. Like you go to any convenience store and you can get a 19.2 ounce or whatever they are of the Juice Force or whatever,
Juice Bomb, Voodoo
and
Ranger,
every single brewery in the world is chasing that. So they're much more like mass market. You know, they're not less. It's crazy. I see people walking into Sheetz. For those of you who aren't from where we're at, Sheetz, a little, you know, not little, quite big, but convenience store chain out here. People walk into the Sheetz and I'm like, dude's, you know, looks like he's about to go grab a High Life, right? Or freaking Natty Daddy or something. And he walks out with like 4 cans of Juice Force. And it's just like, it's a mainstream beer now, which is like no disrespect. They make good beer, but yeah, it's funny because they abandoned, you know, and had to reformulate Fat Tire. And you know, I think they probably ultimately killed that brand doing that.
Yeah,
and
I believe so,
and now those beers are obviously coming back in style again. It's wild.
I'll jump in here. I found the one local beer that's not an IPA in the Pacific Northwest. Like that's like all we've had for like 20 years. It feels like is just variations on IPAs and hazy IPAs. But this is from Black Raven Brewing, and it's called the Kitty Cat Blues. It's just a like very mild blueberry pale. early iterations of this beer did have catnip in it, but I don't think they're doing that anymore. And that's why it was called Kitty Cat Blues, but I'm not seeing catnip listed as an like anymore.
Oh, it's not FDA approved, I assume.
That's funny.
That'd be really funny if it was.
Well, I'm
Something
sure
like
you can buy it. Like I bought, weirdly enough, over Christmas, I bought my kids, I 8 and 10-year-old daughters, and they love to like mix little weird shit, So I bought them like a bunch of just stuff online to just make like quote unquote potions, and they just like to get little bottles and mix herbs and dried flowers together and hot water and make them, and then put food coloring in them and make just little like, and then just name them wacky witchy shit, They love doing that for hours. And I bought them this big box with little baggies of like 100 different herbs and dried flowers. And one of them was catnip. And I was like, oh, I didn't realize catnip was actually like an herb.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't realize that.
Yeah. I don't know. So maybe it is FDA approved in that, like, it's just, we never use it because it has no like value to us as like flavor or taste. It doesn't do anything for us. We don't like it, but we can have it if we want.
It's like my buddy who used to own a brewery in Frederick, Maryland, who put the beaver anuses in in the beer. Yeah, because of the vanilla flavor. It was just like a fun little I don't know, quirky thing to do. Yeah. You know what I mean? Nobody's out there going, boy, I want a beaver anus beer, but it's a fun talking point.
Speak for yourself.
What was it? One of the original Colorado craft breweries, the Wynkoop, started by putting fucking bull testicles in, one of their porters or stouts or whatever it was. So a long history of fucking gross stuff in beer.
Speaking of gross stuff in beer, what kind of gloop glop bullshit are you drinking on, Steve?
Hell yeah, brother, you called it. Actually, I'm not too down the gloop glop hole, but you were mentioning diabetes, and I'm like right in line with that. Just a little nice Victory Merry Monkey coming in at 10%.
Damn.
The Belgian style ale with the cranberries and the orange peels and the cinnamons and the nutmegs. Still live that last bit of Christmas season there.
As you should.
Yep.
As you should. Soak it up. It's not even the end of the 12 days of Christmas. We're recording this on January the 3rd. We're not even at the end of the 12 days of Christmas, guys. Keep on celebrating. Why the fuck not?
We're not even to Orthodox Christmas yet, where I get my halushki and stuffed cabbages.
That's true. You still got that other fake holiday in front of you.
It's called Orthodox. It was first, Brian.
God's dead. Anyway, let's get into this, Steve. We've been talking about beer skis. We've been talking about Patreons and all types of spooky stuff. Steve, tell them how this is going to go down, because it's going to be a little more structured than it typically is.
Yeah, a little more structured. It's going to be not as in depth as we get into some of the other showdowns. So here's how it's going to work. Like any other similar Rumble-ish thing, not the Regal Ruckus, but similar to the Regal Ruckus, we're going to have random entry of all the participants. And we're going to start with 3 participants in the ring. And all 3 participants are going to take 10 minutes to present their film. They're going to tell us why the film is good, why the title's bad, and if they have any alternative titles for their film, then they can present those as well.
Oh, alternative titles. I like that. Like that little twist. Yeah.
Yeah. If you can come up with one, put it out there. We're going to go through 3 entrants, and once 3 entrants have presented their films, they're going to debate, and they're going to go through a voting process, and whoever loses that vote goes over the top rope and is eliminated. And that's when we bring in the next entrant. Now we're going to bring those in randomly through picker wheel, and we're going to keep doing this until we get down to a final 2 entrants. The final 2 entrants can make one last plea for their film, and then all the other entrants who were eliminated, as well as the patrons in the Discord, will vote who wins the first annual Regal Ruckus.
Yeah, this is going to be fun, and I'm going to get drunk. All right. I like this a lot. Okay, so Steve, should we now, I guess, announce who the first three are going to be? You're going to spin that wheel, right?
Here we go. The first entrant into the first annual Regal Ruckus is Ian.
Oh,
Okay.
So Ian will be presenting his film Noroi, the Curse, or Noroi. I am not one to pronounce it, so it's up to him. But he will be presenting his film first.
Okay.
And the number 2 entrant to the first annual Regal Ruckus will be me, presenting Crawl from 2019.
Yes.
ooh, ghosts and alligators. I love it. I love we're getting into Japanese ghosts and alligators.
Japanese ghosts and alligators. And the number 3 entrant is Brian.
Wow.
Oh,
I
good.
love this for me. This is
I
great.
know.
Good.
You get to sit
I'm
back.
bad cleanup, brother.
Damn.
Yep. Think
Japanese
of alternate
ghosts.
names for my movie.
Yeah.
So do we get
Japanese
to vote
ghosts,
as well?
alligators, ventriloquist dummies.
No, you don't get the vote, Meg. It's whoever's in the ring.
Okay,
which
perfect.
it'll start with me, Ian, and Brian in the ring.
Mhm.
We get the vote, and then if Brian, Ian, and I can't come to a consensus, like we all vote for one another, then we'll bring in the 4th entrant, and hopefully the 4th entrant will yield a result that tosses somebody out of the ring.
Weird.
Okay.
I love it.
With that said, I think we're all ready to go, and that means
Let's get it
let
on.
me bring up a timer here, and you'll have 10 minutes to present your film. And if you're not done in that 10 minutes, you're going to get the buzzer.
Great. So I am talking about Noroi the Curse, 2005 Japanese found footage film from the same director as the Grudge versus Ring battle that kind of happened around that time as well. I'm Sadako and the other ghost. We follow a documentary director, Kobayashi, as he is connecting all of these different mediums to this case of this city that's been damned. And this movie is great because of the verisimilitude that it uses of the documentary style. I think it really lends to the better found footage films out there. And this implements it really well. It has some incredibly impactful imagery. I mean, there's some really disturbing stuff that happens in this film. Dead babies, dead animals. It's very disturbing, but in a very interesting way. Mm-hmm. And it does something that Asian found footage does so well in implementing the viewer. Others example like The Ring or recently The Incantation, where like by watching it, you now have the curse placed upon you. Mm-hmm. The reason I picked this movie, saying it has a bad title, is because the title is either redundant or vague, depending on how you look at it. Noroi is Japanese for curse. So it's either Curse the Curse or it is a translated title, which is still vague in itself, because the curse does not really explain anything that's happening in the movie. Like, only the thing is more vague than the curse, I think, in that way.
I like to imagine it's the curse : the curse.
Yeah.
And then it's not the only movie, Japanese movie that would adopt that convention, that naming convention. But there's something that just tickles me when I see a Japanese name : the American translation. I'm like, I'm going to go Google that, and I guarantee it means the same thing.
Yes.
Yeah, exactly. And so I do think there are like a lot of better titles you could go for with this film. The two that I wrote down were Kagutaba, which is the name of the scary monster and the scary mask in the film.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Or Damned, because all of these people are damned by the curse, but really it was building the dam that set the curse free from leaving this village.
Yes, of course. I like that. So are you putting the N on there? Or you're not putting the N on there. That's the important.
Whatever.
I feel like you got to put the N, right?
Well, yeah. You've got to get through that SEO. The search engine optimization has to lead people to this movie and not the British punk band or the movie that's coming out tonight about the like weird stuff happening in I think it's Ireland waters.
Yeah.
There's a new movie called The Damned coming out tonight. So as we record,
On the other hand, though, there is the movie Amsterdamned that doesn't use the N. So
Ooh,
it does not, but it does use scuba equipment. Plenty of it.
It does use that. It does use the waterways.
Yeah.
Yeah, this movie, like, it uses, like, footage from what you would see as, like, real Japanese game shows where they have, like, kids doing these, like, psychic experiments. One of the actors is actually, like, a real-life actor, so pulling her in and having her use her real name was, like, a way to make it feel more real. Like, this is an actual documentary that's being made. And the third psychic is like completely wrapped in tinfoil and freaking out the whole time, which I absolutely love.
That guy, and I don't. What's that?
Have you all seen this movie?
Yeah, I've seen it.
I've seen it a couple times, and I actually just recently watched it. Like, honestly, a week and a half before. For those of you who listen to the podcast, I've been on a real J-horror kick, and I know this isn't like straight. Yeah, but this is definitely in that 2005 J-horror, but it's a found footage / mockumentary, so it's a little different. But still, yes, I just watched this recently, and then watched it, I don't know, a couple of years ago, 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This movie is really hard to get a hold of. It actually like had a resurgence in popularity when it hit Shudder a few years ago, but I've been trying to track down a VHS or a DVD, and there's just no physical media of this. I ordered a bootleg from some guy on eBay just so I could have a copy on my shelf.
It's better than nothing.
Yeah, I watched it on Shudder recently, and then the first time I watched it was a really shitty version on YouTube.
Yep.
Yeah. I like Shudder's version though. They do well with the subtitles, and that they, place them appropriately on the screen, because like Ian was saying, like there's a lot of mocking of the the Japanese style of TV show where they show clips to like a panel of people, and then there's just tons of fucking text on the screen while it's happening. But they at least do the subtitles in a way that it's not confusing.
Yeah, and I think the folks that did localization did a really fantastic job, if taking a few liberties. I mean, I've been learning Japanese for the last year, so that's part of the reason I was like, oh man, I just want to watch this movie again and see if like the localization is off. But I think they did a really fantastic job for the amount of Japanese that I understand.
Yeah.
Right on.
Yeah, great performances. I will say, for people who, and like I said, I'm a big just international horror fan in general, but I've also been trying to close some of those gaps that I had in J-horror as well, as of late. And I have become borderline obsessed with it. And one of the things that I love about some of these movies is the completely different sensibility when it comes to scares. Like it is, you are not going to get, if you explained the premise of this movie and said it was a Western movie, you would be like, oh, it's going to be jump scares. We're going to get like some weird distorted faces. Like people are going to think The Grudge, perhaps like the American remake, right? We're going to get The Ring, something like that. It is much, much different than that. It is way more steeped in establishing the premise of realism rather than just you agreeing to suspend your disbelief. And there is, I think, unless you're looking for the subtle things that are sucking you into the realism and appreciating that, I think some Western audiences might find big portions of this movie kind of boring. When I was looking at reviews, I kind of saw that sentiment coming out. But the performances are fantastic. And like you said, the guy, his name's escaped me right now, but the tinfoil guy.
Yeah.
Tito. Yeah.
What a performance. Like, I don't know if I've ever seen anybody look that scared on screen. Like he is losing his fucking shit the entire time.
It's weird people would call this film boring when I've seen so many people just like in love with Lake Mungo. And Lake Mungo is very similar, but I feel like a lot more happens in this film. And there's a lot more attention to detail paid with, where all of the different sources of video come from.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's weird anybody would call this film boring when compared to other found footage.
Well, I mean, there's always that bias against reading subtitles too. You know what I mean? I think that has part of it, but it is a very Lake Mungo vibe, though. Now that you say that,
yeah,
I would agree, and I love both of those movies. But Lake Mungo is much more subtle, where like when the violence actually happens in this, like if you're paying close attention to like what like the process of raising Kagutaba back is, it gets really, really disturbing. Whereas Lake Mungo is more like a subtle sense of dread.
Yeah. Yeah.
Lake Mungo doesn't have that many like piles of squirming fetuses.
No.
Yeah. Yeah.
Lake Mungo doesn't have a woman setting herself on fire. Yeah.
That's true. That's true too.
Yeah.
All right. Last minute, Ann. Defend your movie.
I mean, I think that's it. I think I covered all my thoughts. This movie's fantastic. There's a lot about the plot that I could go into, but for the sake of time, I think I'll just see who's going to enter the ring next.
3, 2, 1.
It's me. It's me. It's big old Steve.
It's me. It's the big Steve.
And I'll be talking about 2019's Crawl. Directed by Alexandra Aja, produced by Sam Raimi, and starring Barry Pepper and Kaya Scoladero. This movie is pretty fucking great, and I hadn't seen it until recently because it had a bad title, and I skipped over it. I said, I'm not watching a dumbass movie called Crawl. Then I actually watch it, and it's actually a lot of fun. It's a tight film that's under 90 minutes, and you get, like, gator scares, gator violence, hurricane violence, and none of that has to do with crawling.
That's true. Very little crawling happens. I kind of wish they would have called it like the hurricane or something, because then of course it would have brought back specifically for wrestling purposes visions of the natural disasters.
Sure, yeah.
And then
Earthquake and typhoon. Yeah.
Right.
Hey,
How do gators get around, guys? I'm pretty sure they crawl, don't they?
No, they don't.
That seems relevant.
No, they don't.
They swim
Ben.
primarily.
Half the movie takes place in a crawl
Most attacks
space.
probably in this movie happened on land, if I have to assume.
Ben.
Sorry.
No. I just want to ask you a question, Ben. How does your dog get around? Does your dog crawl on 4 legs, or does it walk on 4 legs?
Oh my god!
I'm just wondering. Just because the gator's low to the ground doesn't mean it's crawling. It's standing right up on its legs. It's walking.
You got a good... That's a really good point. God damn it. Yeah.
Proximity to ground, is that what we're really going with here, Ben?
That's what he
Wiener
tried.
dogs, their belly, wiener dogs, their bellies will drag.
They'll drag, but they're still walking. When you tell
Whatever the queen's fucked up inbred dogs are, what are they? Corgis or something?
Yeah, corgis. Yeah, those still walking despite only having an inch of clearance.
Nothing crawls.
But yeah, so Crawl is just a real quick story about, hey, there's a girl, she's at swimming practice, and then for some reason they don't know that there's a hurricane a-coming. And then she goes, oh, my dad, he's a dumbass. I got to go save my dumbass dad from his house that he won't stop, trying to fix up and sell on the market in Florida. And good fucking luck with that, because you can't even
Classic
get your
Florida dad story.
Florida dad dumb shit stuff. Not leaving the house when you should. Not boarding it up early. Trying to sell it in a market where you can't even get insurance anymore.
Sorry, dumbass Florida dad. You done fucked up.
Dumbass Florida dad. She arrives at the house, hurricane's in full tilt, and she finds her dad has been attacked by a gator in the basement. Now, I think they were trying to aim to call this a crawl space, but but here's the problem. She stands up a whole lot inside that basement. Like when she's dragging her dad, she's standing up, dragging him.
So the dad's not crawling?
No, he's knocked out on the ground, and she's pulling him to safety.
Dragged.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then eventually, by the halfway point of the film, it's already filled up with water, so they're swimming anyway. There's no more crawling.
Yeah.
They're just
Can't
swimming.
call it swim.
Yeah. Can't call it swim. Could call it a whole bunch of other things, though, which is one of my main points as to why this is a bad title.
Mm-hmm.
when you go into what it's called in other countries, it's not called crawl in other countries. Okay. Noroi, that's called Noroi in every country. It's called the curse. It's translated to the curse in every country. Magic is translated to magic in every other country, except for sometimes it's called black magic, but that's still magic. Crawl in other countries, it's called the Jaws of Terror in Israel. It's called Hell in the Storm in most Spanish-speaking countries. It's called a whole bunch of other things about hells and storms and terror, and none of it has to do with crawling. It's only dumbass Western, like Australia, UK, stuff like that it gets called crawl.
Impressive research.
Yeah. So, it's terrible titles. I do want to point out, among the funnier things about this film is this film is just completely brutal to its protagonists. It treats this girl and Barry Pepper like Marv and Harry in Home Alone.
She really does, yeah. So, aside from the bricks flying from 3 stories up and hitting her square between the eyes, she's really getting the Marv and Harry treatment.
Yeah, like they both are. Like they're bit multiple times. Barry Pepper loses an arm. Barry Pepper has a sad Titanic drowning scene where he just like he's drifting to the bottom of a basement, like with that wide-eyed open look going on. And they just could not give a fuck about these two protagonists. It's just constant, like, merciless to them. But when it's not being merciless to these protagonists, it's tearing everybody else apart. Like, cops show up, you think they're going to save the day? No, both of them get killed. You ask the two of them if they like alligators, both of them say no.
Both of them say no. How in the hell?
How in the hell? They're cops.
They're cops, that is why.
One of the great attacks in the movie is, as the lead character is in the basement trying to get somebody's attention, there's a bunch of punks over at the local gas station stealing an ATM machine because there's nobody else there. And she gets the attention of one of the punks, and in the background, another one gets taken down by a gator. And it's just because the storm is so loud and because, everything else is going on, he doesn't notice. And it's just a great bit of slapstick, which is like a lot of this movie. A lot of this movie is mean, dirty slapstick. And on top of that, she was a ginger with cornrows, so she had it coming. So.
Also, that's just a Florida Tuesday afternoon.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah.
A ginger with cornrows getting eaten by a gator at a gas station.
Yeah.
I think is
Happens
on the
all the
flip
time.
side of the Florida flag, if you look at it.
Yeah, it's there. It's part of the just kind of the crest when you walk into any official government building.
They're asking if you want the cornrow treatment.
Do you want the cornrows? Which brings me to my alternate title, though. I think a far better title for this film, considering that they're under siege by the hurricane. They're possibly going to die in a shoddily built house. They're getting attacked by gators. And then on top of all of that, their system of levees to protect them fails. I think a far better title for this movie is 100 Ways to Die in Florida. Just
That's solid.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
I like that. Honestly, for a split second, I thought you were going to say my alternate title is Under Siege starring Steven Seagal.
Can I tell
Under
a quick
Siege
story? Speaking of that movie.
You know what, Meg? Go ahead. I'll cede my final 2 minutes to you
no.
for
I mean,
a quick story.
you can keep your 2 minutes. I can tell later. It's actually, but I had a friend staying at my house watching my animals while I was out of town, and I came back and went back to work, and he kept on being like, "Did you find my present yet?" And this has happened. This is like a month and a half goes by, and he keeps asking me, and I say no. And right under my nose, literally in front of my face in the stack of VHSs, he bought, I think there are 6 Steven Seagal movies now in my on my shelf, and one of them was that one. It was pretty solid. We were just, I think it might have been like, just, I was close to Christmas and just sitting there, and I looked down and I'm like, huh.
That's the gift that keeps on giving.
That was it
right there.
And then I kept finding more. I kept finding more. It was great. Anywho.
All right, so I'll make my final plea for Crawl as being a good movie with a bad title. Like I said, I didn't watch this movie when it first came out because I said, I'm not watching a dumbass movie called Crawl. It doesn't make any sense. When you hear the word crawl, it brings a whole lot of things to mind, mainly insects. And there's like a couple spiders in one scene in this film, and that's it. It's not the main focus. The main focus is gators and hurricane, and none of that appears in the title. You would never think. And it also just doesn't do any service to bring you into the film, because had I known it was directed by Alexandre Aja, I might have checked it out. Maybe. Because he has, he's directed the Hills Have Eyes remake. He directed Piranha 3D. He directed High Tension. All of those are far better titles. Piranha 3D tells you exactly what you're getting.
Yes.
You're getting piranhas.
All
in
3
3D.
dimensions of piranhas. I will say, Steve, and this is going to count against you in my book. I'm a little bit disappointed that you went that entire 10 minutes and did not make any mention of, this is a hurricane movie, that, my God, that's got to be Kane. There was not one time where you used that phrase. You did not talk about the Big Red Machine one time, and that is going to hurt you. That's going to hurt you. I don't know how else. I can't sugarcoat it. That's going to hurt you.
Yeah. Hey, look, you know what? I'll accept it, especially because we've been in the Kane revolution of blue cane and gay cane and cocaine.
Yeah.
So,
and also he's still around. I mean, is he the mayor of that town still? I don't think he is anymore, but
sure. Why not?
Knoxville, Tennessee, Knoxville County,
I
in
don't
Tennessee.
think he's the mayor anymore, but that would have been great if they were like, because they do. One of the funny things about this movie is they get surprised by a hurricane, which typically doesn't happen. Right.
Typically.
That's one of the things you get the most lead time. Now, you can get surprised by a tornado. You can get surprised by a flash flood. Hard to get surprised by a hurricane these days, but it would have been funny knowing that they did, in fact, get surprised by a hurricane, to go outside and be like, oh my God, it's Kane. It's the hurricane.
Oh my God. My God, that's gotta be hurricane.
Yeah. Anyway, all right. No, it's a fun movie. I'll keep my criticisms of it until we start ruckusing here in a moment. But it's a fun movie.
3, 2, 1.
It is my time to shine. I've born to shine. I'm a freak of nature, right? So normally you get a 50% chance, right, of losing this. But there's 3 of us, which means I got a 33.3%. Never mind. I was going to do that whole big Papa Pump.
Do the Steiner math.
Big Steiner math.
Do the Steiner math.
All right. So I'm going to talk about 1978's Magic, which was directed by Richard Attenborough, who, very recognizable director name. He directed a lot of fantastic films, including The Great Escape, A Bridge Too Far, Miracle on 34th Street, Gandhi, guys. Anyway, so this was based on a novel by William Goldman, who also wrote the screenplay. So it is, I've not read the book, but it is apparently remarkably faithful to the novel. It's about, so I'll say, who it's starring. Star-studded cast, the great Sir Anthony Hopkins as the lead, playing Corky Withers. We've got Anne Margaret playing the kind of love interest, Peg or Peggy Ann Snow. What a great name. And then one of my all-time favorites, Burgess Meredith as Ben Green, aka Gangrene. And then Ed Lauder plays a supporting role as Duke. We have a handful of other folks in there. Jerry Hauser, who plays a cab driver, who on his profile on all the online IMDb and all that stuff looks very much like I'll say a certain billionaire who owned an island and was a sex trafficker. He looks very, very much like him in his picture.
A little bit.
A little bit. Anyway, So Corky, played by Anthony Hopkins, is this magician who's kind of floundering in his career. He starts using this ventriloquist dummy he names Fats at the suggestion of his like kind of longtime mentor. Interestingly enough, originally they wanted to cast Gene Wilder as the lead in Anthony Hopkins' role, which probably would have went well, but Attenborough specifically said he did not want any comedians involved because he didn't want it, it to take away from the seriousness of the feel of the film. Corky, Sir Anthony Hopkins as Corky, actually learned ventriloquism for the role, which is such an Anthony Hopkins thing to do. He's a really, really unique, super memorable character. He's this introvert, but he's extremely talented. He's kind of a ladies' man too, which is kind of weird when you first see him. He's kind of on the verge. He starts getting more and more popular. He's on the verge of nailing this big TV show. Burgess Meredith Green is his character's name. He's his agent, his like longtime old grizzled kind of shitball agent with a heart of gold, if you will. And he is just about to hit it big. And he's got this fear of success, essentially, right? He also is worried because he knows, and the audience obviously knows, that he's kind of cuckoo bananas, right? He's kind of batshit crazy. And the TV station that's going to give him the show or the special or something like that, it needs him to take like a physical and a psychiatric exam, and he's trying to avoid that. So there's different things playing against him here. Ultimately, we learn he can't really control the character of the dummy, which is Fats. And as the movie progresses, we see that blend of Corky's personality and Fats's personality, who's this kind of like gregarious, foul-mouthed character, kind of merging together until we can't really see the difference between them. So you kind of have this idea throughout that things are not going to end well, but you don't know exactly how. So this like there's a bit of a building of dread, which is really effective, I think. Corky, is kind of, I guess, suffering from something that resembles like dissociative personality disorder. So it's almost like a split personality type situation. He ends up running to this isolated cabin in his hometown, reconnects with Peggy, who's his like obviously teenage love interest that they start rekindling this whole thing. But like Fats can kind of say what Corky is thinking, but he's still as insecure as Corky. So it's Anthony Hopkins acting against himself, which is outrageously, I can't even imagine how difficult that would be. And then you have this very charming character, Anne Margaret's character, Peggy. And she's got this violent alcoholic husband. Just the whole thing is set up almost like a stage play a little bit that's spiraling towards this, ultimate climax, right? Burgess Meredith is a fucking treat. Anything you see him in, for me, he's one of my all-time favorite performers. I absolutely love him. Such a unique performer. Every scene he's in is so impactful. Corky, as you go throughout the movie, he starts to look more like the doll too, like literally dressing like him at times. So you see his like spiral and losing control. And then eventually their personalities almost switch at one point, which is kind of wild. There's a lot of like, I won't dig into it just because we don't have time, but like there's all these Freudian ego things happening for sure. But I want to culminate on two things: the amazing final act and the name. The final act, let's call it the final act. So it starts out with Burgess Meredith's character comes in, walks in, basically enters in. He's kind of the ticking clock of the movie. He's coming to where Corky is, and he comes in on the conversation between Corky and Fats, and he's weirdly understanding. He's kind of like, I deal with nutty talent all the time. And he even says something like, I forget, the line's fantastic, but I'll butcher it, but he's like, I saw the fall of vaudeville, son, you know, he calls it vaudeville, which is even better. And he's like, so I don't scare easy. And he basically tasks him with, you have to, if you can not speak as Fats for 5 minutes, you're kind of in the clear. And that is like an agonizing, he doesn't make it, spoiler alert, he doesn't make it, but it's this agonizing thing. And like Anthony Hopkins is getting more agitated. And the line he delivers when he's like, you know, this is pretty cruel of you or something like that, he says to it. And he's like, I don't mean it to be. And he says, oh gosh, what is it? He goes,
he says, I'm not going to forgive you for this.
Yeah, he goes, I don't know if I can forgive you for this. And he's like smiling, though. It's such a chilling scene. Yeah. It's so chilling.
Yeah.
But in any case, Fats does, you know, convince Corky to kill him. There's this terrifying scene of him chasing this old elderly man, like drowning him in a pond. Ultimately, they kill the alcoholic husband. So spiraling towards the end, it's heartbreaking because Corky tries to get Peggy to run away with him. And it's looking like it's going to happen. But then Corky, aka Fats, like they're interchangeable at this point, basically sabotages his success, his quote unquote success again by like explaining this card trick that she does as like that he has done as like a pickup routine. And also obviously, basically releasing the idea that he's also cuckoo bananas, right? So Peggy's like, oh, also you're a womanizer, and you know I don't mean anything to you, and also you're cuckoo bananas. So it's this like devastating reveal. Fats wants Corky to kill Peggy. He ends up trying to kill himself instead. But then the most heartbreaking ending, they're both dying. By both, I mean just Corky, but Corky and Fats. And Peggy comes back and it's just kind of like, I'm cool with everything. I don't care that have whacked out poo brains. I'm going to run away with you. Everything's going to be great. I've changed my mind. And as she comes back, she starts talking like Fats in a very vague ending that I love.
Yeah.
Because, and I saw
30 seconds.
Yeah. And so it's very vague. It's very open-ended. Also, this was released right before Halloween, so that killed its momentum in the box office. And the name is Magic, which tells you absolutely nothing about the movie. It's a shitty name. It should have been called Dummy or The Ventriloquist, or something along those lines. Like, Magic tells you nothing about what's happening in the movie. And there's nothing supernatural, so it's an even worse title.
Okay. I disagree, but
that's all right. That's all right.
Yeah. All right. So Brian's time is up. We're now into the first voting block between Brian, Ian, and myself. And I just want to open up discussion with Magic that Magic is a perfect title for it, because even though we don't see a whole lot of like what you think of as traditional magic, ventriloquism is a type of magic.
Sure.
Like it's known as it, like it has its roots in necromancy. It's where it got its start. It is a type of magic. It has like the misdirection. It has the patter in the scripts of magic. So it is a type of magic. And what the film is trying to do throughout the entirety of it is trying to convince you or lead you down a road that makes you think Fats is alive. Because even before this film, we've seen a number of ventriloquist dummy, either TV shows or
that
movies.
Is in fact supernatural. Yeah.
Yeah. And Devil Doll comes to everybody's mind right away with Mystery Science Theater.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I want ham.
Yeah.
You can't have ham.
You can't have ham.
Everybody remembers that.
Yeah. So I don't disagree with you. I think it makes sense. The title makes sense. It's just, for somebody who doesn't know anything about the movie besides it has a killer ventriloquist dummy, it doesn't exactly suck you in, right? So it's kind of the inverse of Crawl, in that Crawl tried to throw a title out there that sounded like a 70s exploitation movie, and it fell flat. This one tried to be overly artistic and thoughtful, and I have no doubt that they had a rationale, probably not too similar to the one that you just gave, as to why this is a great title, but they talked themselves into a fucking corner, because when you hear, hey, I'm going to see a movie called Magic, I think that it's a big reason why this movie has, up until recently, I would say in the last 3 or 4 years, it's experienced a little bit of a resurgence. As a lifelong horror fan, I didn't even know about this movie until like 5 years ago. And I think part of that is because it does not have a genre type title that grabs your attention. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And that also, how much is that also just like it wasn't available to watch anywhere? Like I watched it on Prime for this episode, but like I don't think I've ever seen it in a VHS or anything like that. It's just not a film. Like, yeah, it's not a film that was talked about, so maybe there wasn't a physical copy that was demanded for. Yeah, but that's
Anthony
just more reasons why you didn't see it.
It's a big actor. It should have been at the forefront, and I think it suffers from the phenomenon that we've talked about on the show 100 times, which is shitty title, and it doesn't grab your attention, and you need that in genre films.
Sure. But also at the same time, that title is also tied to a William Goldman work. And so that's why they kept it. And when they released it, it still is Magic in every other country. So, yeah, I think it was, I think that was one of the downsides to, unfortunately, having the original novel author write the screenplay, is they gave him a lot of control, because he said, I want to write the screenplay. If I'm going to sell you the rights to this book, I have to write the screenplay. That was part of the agreement, which makes sense. And I think it played to their benefit, but I think keeping the title was a mistake. I think it's why it's floundered in obscurity. Sure. Let me throw one more point, and we don't have to discuss it much, but there is a more recent short film adaptation of this, and I think its title is worse than Magic in that it's just called 5 Minutes. No, that's way better title. And it's just, I don't think it's a better title, because that's not as focused as like what they're trying to put off. The 5 minutes is just like a device to, why he has trouble in the beginning. I don't think it encompasses the film totally, though. But 5 minutes is like the stage time, the idea of doing a tight 5 on stage. Right. Yeah. So it has the same amount of like double meaning as the original one. And it makes me wonder what it's about. And it like that tight amount of time suggests the premise is got some time-bound anxiety around it. Magic sounds like a half-finished shit title of a, some sort of like clickbait Tubi Disney ripoff thing. Magic, the fairies that do things in the castle. You know what I mean? Or some shit like that. Well, this movie was from 1978, so of course it gets to call itself Magic because it was first. It's before a whole bunch of other movies ever. So yeah. Let's go to Anne. Let's see what Anne has thoughts on, and then we can go to voting.
Yeah, I mean, I have watched all 3 of our movies just yesterday, actually. So that's kind of convenient that we all ended up in the first 3 spots. I think 5 minutes does lend a little bit more urgency to it, even if you don't know the log line. But Magic, he's doing a lot of close-up magic and sleight of hand and stuff, and the ventriloquism, but it doesn't really define what this movie is. And I was trying to think last night, wow, this is very influential. You have Night of the Living Dummy, the Goosebumps series, and you have a whole bunch of Tales from the Crypt and lots of anthology stuff that has covered this. And I'm not surprised it's in a short film, because the length of it, it just didn't have as much of an impact for me. And I agree, Crawl, that's not a great title. I am excited that there's going to be a sequel to it. Initially, I had heard a lot of people raving about Crawl, and for some reason I thought it was going to be in the sewers of New York. So it was a pleasant surprise to see the setup, but I do think the sequel is going to be New York sewers. alligators. I think my biggest complaint with Crawl is that crocodiles are the more aggressive of the two, in my understanding. And also the teeth on these gators looked more crocodile than gator to me.
I'll throw my criticism of Crawl out there. I agree with Steve. It's a shit title, but it's also the worst movie of these three movies. Crawl is a fun 80-some minute mindless action thriller with a bunch of decent CGI. I think it is an underappreciated movie that has got shit on because it has or hasn't gotten as many eyes on it because it has a shitty title, but you can't say it's as good as The Curse or Magic. That's my take.
I don't know. I personally think it is a better movie than The Curse. But that maybe just be my found footage bias. I think The Curse is fine. It's enjoyable. I think it has a fun mystery that unravels, which is a lot of fun to follow. But it's, almost 2 fucking hours, and that could be kind of chopped up a little bit. And also, I think The Curse as a title is perfectly fine as well. Like, it's not the best title, but it's perfectly fine. The same way I think Magic is perfectly fine. I think Crawl does an actual disservice because there's nothing about crawling in it. And it's a way more fun. Like I said, if it had the alternate title of 100 Ways to Die in Florida, that more reflects the black comedy that is in this film. Like, one of the funniest scenes is when they finally escape the house only to get flooded back into the house, which is like the scene in Jurassic Park where the car falls from the tree back on top of Tim, and he's like, we're back in the car. It's the same thing. Like, they had just escaped a flooded basement up to the roof, get out, get in a boat, everybody thinks they're going to escape, and then they and the boat and the gators get thrown right back through the front pane window of the house. Yeah. And now that floor of the house is flooded and they have to climb to the top of it.
It's a good scene. I will remind you, it's not called The Curse. It's called Curse: The Curse. That's a word.
Curse the Curse.
That's way worse.
Yeah, it's Curse the Curse, or just The Curse. Or if you want to be like very American about it and just mispronounce the word enough, you could just call it No Doy, which is an even worse name.
So okay, possibly The Curse: The Curse. Yes, we're watching the movie called The Curse, but then the Curse is the movie that Kobayashi was making, and so they could make a sequel to The Curse, and it would be The Curse something else.
Yeah,
but we're watching the Curse edition of The Curse at the moment.
That's true. Yeah.
The Curse cut.
Yeah. The Kobayashi cut.
All right, let's get into voting.
So remind the listeners, what exactly are we voting on? Who should be thrown over the ropes?
Yeah, who's getting thrown over the top rope? It's very similar to how we do voting at the end, but in reverse. So we'll let Ian vote first since he was our first entrant. Whoever he votes for is who he's voting to put over the top. And then we'll go to me and then to Brian.
Okay, I'm going to vote for Magic.
Ooh, a twist. Okay. A twist. Ooh, good Lord. Good Lord.
It's when you team up to push Kane or the Big Show out,
So, hey, this is tough because
it doesn't matter, Brian.
It doesn't matter.
Because it goes to me.
It goes to you.
Yeah, because it goes to me.
Yeah.
And you're getting thrown over the top rope, bud.
It is 100%. It is 100% Crawl. And as I'm getting thrown over the top rope, I am going 2 double middle fingers at Crawl.
Thanks for coming, Brian.
You rat fucks.
Hope you had
I'm throwing a tantrum on ringside right now. I'm stomping. I'm punching the thing. I'm yelling at kids in the front row. I'm fucking furious. I'm fuming right now. I'm Mark Marrow right now on the side, just going fucking buck wild.
Look, Ian has it nailed down. I think yours is probably the best film.
Yeah.
And so I can't have you going deep.
Yeah.
So I have to toss you now because
it's going to be that type. You know what? I'm going to be a thorn in your side later on though, because I'm coming back from the back room, liquored up and pissed.
We'll see. We'll see how it all shakes out at the end. But I just know I have to toss you quick because, look, I know these other jabronis I can get rid of, but you're going to be in trouble.
Oh, he's going full heel. I'm telling you, I'm coming out of the back. Mark Marrow. I don't know why I picked Mark Marrow, but I'm going to have Sable distracting you. And then I'm just coming with the steel chair right to the back of your dome.
Well, you think about what you got planned and you just head on to the back because our next entrant into the Regal Ruckus is...
2, 1.
It's the Boghag.
Coming to the ring.
I love how all the entrance music's in my head are all the Big Show's theme song, just saying the different things.
Yeah, mine too.
The Big Show over and over.
It's the Boghag.
Many times tonight I've been like tempted to just come on when you guys say my name and I'm like want to be like nay motherfucker, but now I just said it and I don't know how it's gonna land.
Nay.
And maybe it'll be the thing.
Nay. Or when you vote, yay or nay, gives a whole new meaning to it, as the horse girl herself.
I wanted a real like authentic horse noise. Like I wanted her to really commit to like blow out the mic, make
like
Steve
a bird
real
call,
pissed.
but for horses.
Like a real horse. Yes, but for
I know we're doing a whole thing here. We're doing a whole ruckus, but Meg might be able to answer this question. Do different breeds of horses have different neighs, not unlike bird species?
Oh,
interesting. I actually don't know. Sorry guys.
Wow.
Sorry, I guess I'm not I'm not enough of a horse girl here.
Wow.
So
Fail.
not that horsey.
next time I'm on, then I will come back and report for you guys.
Do a little.
That's an
do a little
interesting
horse.
question.
Do a
now.
little horse research.
Get some horse facts.
Dig your hooves into that one.
Good one, Brian. All right, y'all. I am coming to the ring with a movie from 2020, Slaxx, with 2 X's. Now, we've got killer pants. We've got Bollywood. We've got so much blood. And ultimately, the killer wins and capitalism loses. What I loved about this movie, first and foremost, is that it really doesn't overstay its welcome with a quick 75-minute runtime. But Slaxx is a horror comedy, Canadian horror comedy, directed by Elsa Kephart, which, looking at her background, there's really not a lot, but some interesting film titles. And it stars Romaine Dennis as a cashier in a clothing store who, with her fellow employees, is terrorized by a possessed pair of jeans, which we find out is from one of the quote unquote supposed ethically sourced organic cotton farms in India, that a young girl was killed and then basically is in the cotton. Her blood is in the cotton and then haunts the pants and then comes back for revenge. So we have a lovely revenge film. It's very quick. It's quirky. It's kind of awkward at times, but ultimately really fun. So just like this movie, I think my 10 minutes is going to be pretty quick because it's straight into the point that this movie for a long time like threw me off, that I kept seeing it and I, the image and then even the font of Slaxx kind of was like intrigued me, but ultimately because the name was pretty terrible, I just was like, this is going to be such a corny, cheesy film. I don't even know if I want to dive into it. But the first time I watched it, I was like, this is actually pretty fun. And I think because it was such a quick, like, we're in and out, we're getting to the point, this is what's happening. We're also specifically talking about global politics in a sense. It like really had some sticking points, and it's something I've like watched again, which for me, in trying to watch new stuff all the time, it doesn't happen often. So I really enjoyed it. Now, I already talked about how I felt like the title was bad, but okay, I worked with my coworkers today too, because I was like, I came up with a lot of these and even more after work, but a couple of them are pretty good. So I'm just leave a few of them because I do have I probably have like 10 alternative names for this, but I think one of my favorites is ethically sourced, alternative title Waist Cutter, which waist overalls is an alternative name for jeans. So I was like Waist Cutter because it happened a lot. I like that. Let me see if there's anything else I would want to call out. I like this one, Secret Slasher. Like that? Man, no response. All right, guys.
Nope.
I'm trying to think.
That one's worse than Slaxx.
Yeah, that honestly, that would
Inseam Incarnate.
that's
Slim Cut Catastrophe.
that's just alliteration. Now you're just doing alliteration.
You're killing it. I love it. I love it.
No, I think some of these are really fun. Maybe just as bad as Slaxx, but I think my top two were ethically sourced and Waist Cutter that could possibly be good alternatives. Playing into ethically sourced specifically into some of like the political angle, which again did not feel too forced, but they clearly wanted to talk a little bit about fast fashion and how terrible it is, and the people who are affected. But yeah, so again, I'm probably less than 5 minutes at this point on my movie, but I don't think I have much else unless I go into detail by detail about this silly film.
What about just calling it Killer Jeans?
Yeah, I guess I was trying to have more fun. That felt too on the nose.
It's like bed. It's like Killer Bed, the bed that eats kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't know if I would have like chosen it specifically anymore if it was Killer Jeans, though. You know?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I was thinking about Scream Your Jeans. Because it's like Cream Your Jeans, but it's Scream Your Jeans.
Yeah.
It would at least draw you in.
Pass there, Steve. You, maybe.
Only people
it draws you in at least.
Scream Your Jeans. I'll be honest with you, I was going down that path as well. I wonder if there is something.
I'm not a 15-year-old boy, apparently.
Well, listen, you didn't grow up listening to Tenacious D apparently as much as we did, because
no, definitely not.
That's where my head went to. I'm thinking something retail focused, and I can only think of things that sound like really shitty names of like shitty sitcoms, but like Retail is Murder or something, like, you know, that's a sucky one, but something along the lines of something about working in retail, because most, like, the setup of the movie is, of course,
Retail hell.
Retail hell. I feel like that's already a movie.
It's hard to fucking say.
Yeah.
No, isn't there? There's something Motel Hell. We like covered
Motel
that
Hell
one. So
Of course, Motel, classic of the
but
genre.
Retail hell coming out of Christmas. Everyone who's worked retail understands.
Yeah.
So I think there's like some good alternatives here, but I don't know if you guys felt the same way in like initially seeing the name of it, but it took me a little bit to watch it.
I don't know. I think Slaxx worked for me. It's weird that it's 2 X's, but if you made it 3 X's, that would imply porn, so you can't do that. But if you tried to spell it S-A or S-L-A-X-E, as in like axe, it comes off like there's no axes in the film.
Right. Then you got a chopping mall situation.
You want to hear something funny though, Steve? Specifically about the X's?
Yeah, what's that?
So the director, I was looking at their background, and in 2002 they had a TV series called Naughty Socks with 3 X's.
Yeah, so that's porn.
And that might, maybe, but it also kind of plays back to your Tenacious D reference too. So I was like, yeah.
They had a sock puppet show, which, I mean, doing that in Canada when
was it porn?
It Ed?
Sock puppet porn?
Yeah, it looks like it's sock puppet porn, which like
that
is
is
crazy.
hard to say 5 times.
Sock puppet porn. Sock puppet porn. Yeah, that's a rough one. Yeah, Slaxx is a bad title. I mean, I think, and it's not. I just don't know if I could do better. Like, you know what I mean? This is the thing too. It's specifically jeans, and when I think Slaxx, I don't think jeans. So it's a little bit of a chopping mall, like I was going to say, situation where it's like, yes, people get murdered, and yes, slacks are pants and jeans are pants, but there's no chopping in shopping mall. People get lasered to death and set on fire and shit like that. Whereas this is like, we're not even talking about the killer Slaxx. We're talking about killer jeans, but it's kind of close enough, but it's still a bad title.
Yeah.
Deadly Denim would have been.
Yeah. I had that on my list. I do have that on my list as well. But I thought it was maybe too on the nose and not as interesting. But yeah,
there was a movie that came out in 2018 that was just called Killer Sofa. Like back to Brian's point about just naming stuff Death Spa or Deathbed, the bed that eats. Yeah. Like you can just be on the nose and obvious and everybody knows what they're getting out of your film. This film, it's called Slaxx. You kind of understand that you're getting killer pants, especially when you see the poster, but you don't know that you're actually getting like a socially conscious film with the whole angle of like, it's possessed by the ghost of an Indian girl that was chopped up in a fucking farming accident and she was 13. Like, I thought that was actually kind of a clever twist, and the title doesn't serve that at all.
Right. I think that's why Ethically Sourced was kind of like my top one, because I think it might intrigue people in different angles. Like, but I think the poster would have to go along really well with it. And I think I could see like, I don't know, like some machines, some blood, and it doesn't have to show the genes per se, but yeah.
I will say my takes with the, I'll plant the seed and we'll talk about it more when we start Ruckus in. This is a low budget movie. I totally get it. It's got some fun, quirky performances, and it does have jeans drinking blood, which I love the visual of a pair of jeans drinking blood, like through the waist. Apparently the waist is its mouth, which I would have thought maybe like one of the legs would be its mouth. Like, anyway, jeans drinking blood is fun, but a lot of the kills, the action of it, which is what makes good practical effects good, right, is the actual impact, the action, are off screen.
Yep.
Which
you can tell because of the low budget, yeah.
Yeah, which is a big old
But
bummer.
I will say that in a benefit to it being low budget, or like the acting for it being low budget, was actually not distracting, which can easily, I feel like, happen.
Yeah, the acting's not terrible, but
yeah, they were big cartoony performances, which is, which should be the case with a movie about killer pants.
Right, yeah.
If you play this stone sober, like super serious, that'd be kind of fucking dumb.
Yeah.
Yeah. But also, I mean, I don't know. It could fold back in on itself and be funny again if you play it completely just straight.
Yeah.
It can fold back in on itself.
It could.
Like a pair of jeans.
Fold.
But those overnight retail sessions always get weird. Like if you've done inventory overnight in a clothing store or any retail setting, like people just become the most like base version of their archetype that they're bringing to the store anyway.
Ooh, what if we do what if it's called like the folding or something?
The folding. All right. Well, that's your time, Meg. And now it's time for another voting block, and it'll be between me, EE, and Meg. And I think this time I'll vote first, because we'll just go around the horn that way, and then it'll go to Meg, and then end with Ian, and Ian will decide who gets thrown over the top rope if he doesn't get thrown first. Did you have any last points you wanted to try to defend Slaxx with?
No, I feel pretty good.
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
Nope. Feel pretty good.
So, yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to say that my vote is going to go to Slaxx.
Damn.
While the title is kind of bad, it is just also on the nose. Like you understand by the X's in the title that we're not just talking about regular pants.
They're extreme pants. They're like,
yeah, we're talking about extreme pants.
Flaming hot, spicy nacho pants.
But more than that, I just don't think the movie's good enough. Like, the movie's fun, and I think people should watch it. Like, it's fun and has a lot of fun things in it. The visual of the back pockets being used as the eyes on the, when they're puppeting the pants is funny. Like, there's a lot of funny visuals, but like overall, it is just the psychology behind it of like the reasons they make up to keep people indoors and to not let other people into, you know, the space is just like and the kills off screen is and it's cute that they spent a lot of time doing pants puppetry with a green screen morph suit guy. That's cute now all, but overall it just doesn't amount to like a really amazing film, and it's also still just killer pants. So it's fun.
That's
Everybody
fine.
should watch. Everybody should watch it, and it won't take up much of your time. But also, I just don't think it's good enough to win. Like it's best movies with bad titles, not with a title.
Like what you have, you rat
That's
fuck.
sleeping.
Shut up! You're in the back.
You rat
You're in
fuck.
the locker room.
You rat fuck.
All right, so
I'm popping
I'm
I'm popping up on the
next.
Jumbotron. Pissed my pants already.
Come on, Meg, get up.
Hit the
No,
fucking
no.
showers.
So like, in all fairness, I haven't seen any of the other movies, so I'm basing it off of a lot of other comments right now. And the only thing that I'm really pulling away from this and why it's going to be my choice is that Crawl was the only out of the other two that was really being debated very hard. So I have to go with that one. So Cursed was not being torn apart as hard as Crawl was. So I'm going to have to vote for Crawl.
That's just Brian's jealousy. Don't let that sway you, Meg. You can
No,
reconsider
I
Don't
mean-
your vote.
let Steve do this.
No,
You
don't
know?
let him do that.
You got to play the game here, but though at the same time.
The game. If you're gonna play the game. Sorry.
I see you both sitting on the top rope, and I need to make an alliance here going into our last round, which is going to get pretty silly. But I am going to go ahead and push Crawl out of
Son
the
of a
ring.
Oh my god.
Get him out of here. Get him the fuck out of here.
Because I have seen both of these movies. They're both kind of like mindless candy, but
Yeah.
like Slaxx just does it a little bit more for me and has like a message that is the subtext, not like the full-on text. So yeah, I'm keeping Slaxx around for another round.
Son of a bitch.
That's right. That's right.
I didn't see that coming.
Hell yeah.
Dang. Here I come. I'm coming in
See,
fresh.
see now, Brian,
I am
if you want
ready.
to do it,
Drunk, maybe
here comes
too.
here comes the Bigfoot. Here comes Bigfoot Ben.
Here comes a big
That's a great wrestling name, though.
though.
Dun, 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 dun. And I'm ready to talk to you about a vegetarian propaganda film from 1990 called Trolls 2. Were there any trolls in it? No. Goblins only.
I do love that. Nothing
All
makes
right,
me
so-
happier about this movie that it's called Trolls 2, and they made such a conscious effort to be like, no, there are no trolls. They're goblins. They could have called them trolls.
No. Goblins.
Yeah.
It would have been fine. I mean, they wouldn't have matched up to the description of a typical troll. We'll talk about that later. But it's clearly these are goblins, and we know that. So yes, it's from 1990. It's a story. It's a wonderful story of a young boy and his family. They decide to trade houses with another family, and they take a small vacation to the community of Nilbog. And man, I tried this really hard. I wasn't sure how YouTube or whatever we're on worked anymore, but it doesn't say goblins. I wrote it real big.
This
on my
isn't a
paper.
mirror. This is not a mirror.
I thought it might have been. I thought it might have been a mirror.
Ben thinks computer screens are
No,
mirrors.
It's not. I swear. I tested it secretly when we were like, I'd flip it like real slyly and like, oh, it's not gonna fucking work. I just wanted to show the effort. Okay.
Ben is not only that, has also Googled how do magnets work. 100% chance.
You're right. All right, hold on. I'm on the clock. Shut up. All right. So this family, they've traded houses with another family from this town. They're in this town of Nilbog, which happens to be goblins spelled backwards, which they later find out. So this town is inhabited by goblins, and And throughout this course of this movie, they try to turn you into vegetable plants so that they can eat you. That's their whole MO. They're disguised as humans, and they're trying to turn you into vegetables so that they can eat you. You identify them as humans because of this weird, scaly, nasty birthmark that they have on their cheek or somewhere on their body that's 4-leaf clover. All right. They also do a really great job of casting all these goblins disguised as humans because they really do look like goblins disguised as humans. They casted this as like, hey, do you have really strong, awkward features? Come and be in this movie.
And no acting experience whatsoever.
And no you just have to stare blankly at the screen.
Have you seen a movie?
It's fine.
That's too much experience. Please don't come.
People who have seen movies need not apply.
All right, and these goblins, they get their power from something called the Stonehenge Stone of Power, which I just that was a
Stonehenge
wonderful name, and they're led by
Stone
their
of Power.
Which is a Spinal Tap album.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Better title. Better title.
Awesome. And they're led by their leader Credence Leonore. Oh fuck, Gielgud, something like that. There's just a woman, kind of like a witch type figure that she's clearly their leader, and everyone kind of serves her. So Joshua is the youngest member of this family, and he's the only one privy to this information in the beginning of the movie and through at least half the movie. And lucky for him, he has this dead grandpa that comes out of nowhere, and he's the one who is informing him, hey, he told him these stories as a kid, and hey, this town, he's coming to him now in his dreams, and this town is infested with goblins, again, not trolls, goblins, and you got to be careful. You can't go here. This isn't going to work. So over the course of the movie, obviously a lot of chaos ensues. They're trying to feed this family and feed everyone in this family and anyone that comes with them this kind of mysterious green cream filling, and that's really all your something in that.
It's a turtle. It's a turtle pie. Imagine a turtle pie, but flipped around. The inside's green. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. The inside's green, and somehow that makes them edible. And everyone there's either that or spoiled milk, and that's all you got to eat. So, thankfully, with the help of his dead grandpa, Joshua, through the help of his dead grandpa and a triple-decker bologna sandwich, okay, he is able to get his family. I mean, it gets pretty bad for a long time. They eventually, the family kind of comes around, starts to realize that, oh shit, these guys aren't the gracious hosts that we thought they were. They are trying to eat us. Grandpa Seth, Ghost, comes back, is able to guide Joshua with the help of a triple bologna sandwich and motivate all his family to get back to the Stonehenge, Stone of Power, and convince them to all put their hand on it. And if they believe hard enough, that is able and does overpower the witch and really just crumble the whole goblin civilization, at least at that time, down. And they're able to escape Nilbog and get back to home. But actually, when you think they're safe, and when you think the goblins are dead, the mom back, and the mom is one of the best actresses in this film.
She, honestly, it should be illegal for her to act. She should have some sort of very specific court order that if she acts, she has to go to jail.
Yeah.
Her eyes in this movie were wild. If you didn't get to see this, you should, just for her looks of excitement. Well, it's all the same look every time. It was the same thing. So they're finally back home. The whole family's there, and we didn't even. I mean, the father character in this movie is wild.
Hospitality. I've seen this movie.
You can't piss on
I've seen this movie 10
hospitality.
times, and the only thing I can say about this movie is it has, of the top 10 most insane performances I've ever seen, it has 7 of them. I'm going to say, like, roughly.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. And remember that, guys, when we're deciding who to throw off the top rope next. I think that's a really important fact. So the whole family is at home now. Everyone thinks they're safe. Joshua he's a little hesitant to eat. You know, he's been burned by food before. Mom pulls out, I don't know, some kind of cream-filled pastry, eats it. She immediately starts bleeding green, falls over, clothes disintegrate away, and here are the goblins eating her body. Tits are out. She's dead. And Joshua screams.
She's dead.
End of scene.
Tits are out.
Done.
She's dead.
And yep. So I some alternative movie titles that I came up with. These are really great, guys. So listen up. Tell me which one's your favorite. We've got Nilbog, City of Prey.
I like that.
Okay.
Goblin Queen, Horny for Teens.
I like
That one puts you behind the curtain.
But made the
at
list
certain video
regardless.
stores.
That's what you have to make clear. It
I
made
like
the
it.
list.
I still like it a lot.
Green Cream Pies.
Yeah, that's
Again,
behind
a
the curtain
porno.
again.
Again,
behind the
another
curtain.
porno.
I also like that a lot.
Joshua and his quest for the Stonehenge Stone of Power. I think that's the best one.
That
Oh,
one will,
might be
that
right
one will
over
trick a lot of people.
That really rolls off the tongue. Yeah, it has a real sword and sorcery kind of feel to it.
It's a real John Carter of Mars type deal.
If the kids found that by mistake, they wouldn't be disappointed in what they saw. And I'm sure I got some time left. Trolls are huge. They're giant, they're stupid, they're drolly. These were clearly very intelligent, very small. I mean, it's just like you couldn't be, in all the movies we talked about tonight, you could stretch the fact that these titles were relevant to what we watched. Trolls to this movie, not at all. Made no sense. The directors aren't the same. The characters aren't the same. The story isn't the same. Fucking just made up. They called it Trolls. It was supposed to be goblins, and I think they just piggybacked off of the Trolls movie and said Trolls 2. So, I don't know. I should win. There. Okay. Done.
With 10 seconds to spare.
Oh, that was a swoosh. That was a perfect 140 characters.
They were really riding the wave of the success of Troll 1. Yeah.
You're right. I did not give that. I didn't have time to give that the shout out that it needed to.
This is the Hellraiser. This is like the which is it, Hellraiser 5, the one that wasn't even a Hellraiser movie. They just decided to make it one. This just kind of has those types of vibes.
Sure.
It really did.
Yeah.
No,
Hellraiser 5 through 8, where it's just a police procedural where Pinhead shows up.
Yeah. It's just it's a CSI
real
episode
popular.
or something. It's just
Yep.
take out Ice Cube, add Pinhead.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
all right, that's my spiel.
or not Ice Cube, Ice T. Jesus Christ.
Iced tea. Yeah.
Big difference.
Troll 2 is the best part of that movie, though. Like,
Yes.
we were talking good movies, bad titles. This is great title, bad movie.
Yeah.
Well, this is the quintessential bad it's good movie. I mean, this is the room of genre films.
Well, Brian, the fact that you had mentioned that you've watched this so many times told me everything I needed to know about this film in like one sentence, and that it's a bad movie.
Yeah, I've introduced a lot of people to this movie, and I have never, I'm going to say, in the 10 viewings I've had of this movie, I've probably introduced, I'm going to say 30 to 40 people to this movie. And you know, I was their trip, you know, guide on their first viewing of this movie.
God.
And I have never had one person go, "Why the fuck did you make me do that?" Every one of them had a blast. Every one of them had a lot of fun. For the rest of the night, we were going, oh my God. We were doing we were just doing it because this is one of the most quotable movies of all time. There's 30 quotes at least in this movie that if you said it, I would immediately attribute it to Trolls 2.
Heard.
It's still a functionally bad movie.
Yes, it's horrible. It's a horribly made movie.
This was always the movie we threw on at the slumber parties after Evil Dead 2.
Yes. So if we're saying good movies, bad titles,
Right. Okay.
good is very subjective. And you could say good in that it's fun. It's a lot more fun than some of the other movies we've talked about here. But it's not.
Oh my God! You're just shooting.
It's not more gooder.
Ben in the foot right now.
All right. Well, I think it's time to move on to the voting block, and with that, I believe we'll actually start with Ben on this one. That way, Ian will wind up with the middle vote, and Meg will end up with the decider. So Ben, go ahead and cast your first vote, unless anybody else has anything else they want to defend their movie with.
All right. What do we have? We have mine. We have Curse of the Curse of the Curse, and we got Slaxx. I'm tossing Slaxx out. I'm sorry. I love Reanimated Pants, but Slaxx is going.
Slaxx
is going.
I saw in Ben's eyes, it was the moment where HBK says "I love you," and then hits Ric Flair with the sweet chin music.
It hurts me real bad. It does.
Yeah.
I don't want to do it.
Don't worry, Ben. We're still friends.
Okay.
All right. So I'm the wily little Ric Flair in the 1992 Rumble, and I like Slaxx more as a movie, but I think in a strategic sense, I have to save myself here and go up against Troll with the final two. So sorry, Slaxx.
Shameful.
Slaxx.
All right.
Wow. I love Ian with the heel turn at the last moment.
It was a heel turn.
Yeah.
He played it so well. He's like, I'm going to make an alliance.
Yeah.
And then stabbed me in the back.
Yeah. He just, as the HBK, if we're talking HBK, he just super kicked Marty Jannetty.
You know,
he just super kicked Marty Jannetty through the freaking barber window or whatever it was.
Shamefully,
but it was an accident. I was aiming for
classic heel, heel story.
You put Tax down on the mat and then did it.
Yeah,
I see you.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't matter. Actually, do I even need to vote now that I'm already out? Do I still have to do that?
No, you don't have. No, you don't have to vote.
What happens now?
Perfect.
What do we do?
Perfect.
What happens now is we're down to the final two, and it's Troll 2 versus Noroi, the curse, and it's up to Meg, Brian, myself, and all the patrons in the Discord, and we will vote who's the final winner of the first Regal Ruckus.
Okay.
So with that, patrons, get your votes into the chat, and I'll announce that. And we'll go back to Meg, being that she was just tossed. Give her the first vote in deciding the winner. Yeah. Do you toss? Do you toss Ben, who threw you out first, or do you toss Ian, who turned his back on you in your alliance?
I know this is actually a pretty difficult decision, and I'm not taking it lightly. And we have one film where we have Ben talking about cream pies or something the whole time. And then we have Curse of Curse, which sounds interesting. And no one talked shit on that film at all. I want to make a point to say that.
And no one else watched it. No one else can view it.
Okay. So there's part of me that do I stick to the rules or do I get strategic with this, guys? You know what I mean? We have a film that is quotable as per Brian, but it's also on Brian's list. So that's also a knock on the no list for me. But but like it's a bad title. So it's a bad movie with also a bad title. Or we have Curse of Curse, which Steve and Brian, you guys didn't have many negative things to knock on that one, and it sounds like it's probably a good movie that I should probably watch. Title also is fine though, so I don't know if it hits the on the nose of like being a bad title. So it doesn't. So it's like a good movie with a good title. So where do we land? Now I feel more confused than ever.
Okay, I'll add this. Troll 2 is a functionally bad movie, as quotable as it is and as like much of a cult following it has. The fact that it's titled Troll 2 is a function of it being incompetently made. So it's not like My Movie, which was just poorly named, or Magic, which was just poorly named, but are still good watchable movies. Troll 2 is poorly named because it's also just made by an incompetent, insane Italian person.
Heard.
So that I don't know if that helps
incompetence
that
is
much.
also bad though. So
I want to throw in that Ben is my Daniel Bryan, and he's the underdog. He's the little man. He's going to come out, and
I love the Bella twins too, man. So
I'm just doing this.
I get it.
Yes.
You're rooting for the guy who made us watch Bigfoot Goes to Hell? You rooting for him?
No, okay. Everyone needs to stop,
point.
and I need
That's
to make a
point,
decision,
Steve.
okay? I need to make a decision. All right, so even though I don't think Cursed is a bad name, I am going to send Over the Ropes Troll 2.
No!
All right.
One
vote against Ben.
Even though you turned your back on me, Ian, never going to forget that. We can still be friends if you want to be,
For myself, quickly, I just look. Noroi is the better movie, and so I think I'm just weighting my vote on that. Like, yeah, everybody knows Troll 2, but I can't legitimately give it a win in the best movie with a bad title. Troll 2 is a good title for a movie that's not Troll 2. Like, it's a good. So
what?
It doesn't make any sense. You did it backwards, Ben. You did it backwards. So I'm tossing you over the top.
No.
Brian.
So we have to say Brian's the deciding factor right now.
No, we have
we still
Patreons.
Oh, wait, no.
Oh yeah, I got Patreon.
Oh, right, yeah.
Ben's a rule breaker. He's a pioneer. He's a maverick. He's my Daniel Bryan. I'm saying yes to Troll 2, and I'm throwing Curse right over that rope. I went out first. I'm getting drunk. I'm disregarding all rules. I'm giving a big middle finger to the structure of everything, to the people, and I'm throwing Cursed over the rope.
All right. So that comes down.
Before you jump to the Patreon, can I point out one thing, Steve? You were complaining about Ben's movie the last time, his punishment movie, but I know the people who made Fish Piss.
Sure.
So just be ready.
This is how a heel. This is what a heel does. He grovels at the last moment.
And let me tell you, I kind of like Fish Piss. I didn't like Bigfoot Goes to Hell at all.
No one can. No. It's impossible.
Yeah. Big Fish Piss has a charm for me.
If you like Bigfoot Goes to Hell, you are severely deranged. You have something horribly wrong with you.
Right.
Your brain has been turned into mush by the internet.
You should be committed by family members who care about you. So as it stands, currently Troll 2 has 2 votes against it, with 1 vote from Brian, despite all the things telling him otherwise. Brian at this point is like a Trump voter, but whatever.
I just want to see it burn. I just want to see everybody burn.
You're voting against your own interests, knowing what Ben has done to you in the past, you goose.
I've lost all grip on reality.
With that, our first patron voter is Ron, and he's giving it to Troll 2 as the win. Tied up.
Here we go.
Now it's interesting.
And And so we come down to our other patron, Dan, and he says, I was leaning towards Troll 2 until Ben finishes with, my movie was the best movie, so I win. And so I'm going with Cursed.
No.
Giving it to Ian, our first Regal Ruckus winner.
This is just like when Ric Flair showed up from WCCW to the 92 Royal Rumble and went from number 1 all the way to the end, hanging on to his title.
Yeah.
Thank you all.
He went post to post, betraying everybody along the way.
Yeah.
That just in true Flair fashion.
The dirtiest player in the game.
Ben's just sitting there eating his fucking Jello shots that
His
are
fucking-
probably melted at this point.
His fucking deviled egg Jello shots. Just eating them, fistfuls of them.
Angry eating.
Dog farting behind me. This is bottom. This is bottom.
This is it. You're gonna go into your
Looks like
You're gonna
it.
go into your angry room, Charlie's angry room after this. Oh,
Good game, everybody.
guys, that was
Ruckus
our
it was.
very first Regal Ruckus. What a fun time was had by all. Listen, I don't mean to say I told you so, but it was a slobber knocker. It was a barn burner. And it seems, listen, let us know. Shoot us a note, in the DMs or whatever on any of the social medias. Let us know if you like this format. I think it was a lot of fun. A great way to shake off the doldrums of January, get a couple drinks in us, start European uppercutting each other, and somebody's going to bring home that fucking championship strap. And of course, our first time guest, which does feel like it is, Steve, very apropos of the history of the show. First time guests fare pretty damn well. Historically speaking,
we don't know him well enough.
Yeah, historically speaking. No, exactly. We didn't
know how much he was going to betray us.
We didn't know Ian was going to come in all smiley faced and grinning and being polite, and then heel turn us at the last minute, which was obviously a great strategy. So that being said, Ian, for next week, you are to the victor go the spoils, of course. So you have to all the rights and privileges of the champ go to you, and you get to bestow upon us a punishment movie that we have to watch for next week. Now, I will extend the invite to the entire group here, any and everyone who want to join us for our mini-sode next week to discuss whatever Ian bestows upon us. You absolutely can. There is a history also of the new guest throwing out a shit movie for us to watch, and then me and Steve having to just grovel in our pigsty shit pen by ourselves. So we could do that as well. But for anybody who wants to join, you obviously can. Ian, I most of the time, feel free to take your time. Do you have something in the hopper, or do you got to do a little thinking? It's fine either way.
I have a few ideas, but I'd like to do a little thinking and maybe even like bounce some ideas off y'all if you're into that. But I do have a few things in mind. Like what's jumping straight out is like Shrek Crack, which is the same people who did Fish Piss, about some guys that smoke crack and watch Shrek, and then it becomes a slasher. And then also thinking Harlow's Haunt, which is just a buddy of mine's film that stars Jim Dugan, who played Grandpa in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. But I'm gonna bounce around some ideas, and then I will get back to y'all as soon as I
like
have
that.
something.
I like that. I like a surprise too for the listeners. So, okay. Well, thank you all for coming on. Bag, which is a combination of Ben and Meg. Ben, the Boghag herself. Meg, thank you for resurrecting yourself out of the bog. And this isn't even Boghag season.
I'm still alive, guys.
Normally, Boghag summer is when you really come alive, and this is the dead of Boghag winter. So we appreciate you coming out of hibernation.
I am hibernating.
Yeah, Ian,
taking a lot of naps.
Thank you again for coming on. It was super fun to have you. Appreciate the heel turn last minute, and of course, all of our friends in the Patreon or in the Discord, our Patreon friends who joined us as well. Any final thoughts from the roster here of our first ever Regal Ruckus before we wrap this son of a bitch up?
I am drunk. I am beaten. And I have to pee.
That's things Ric Flair says
Yep.
today.
We're going to go nurse our wounds.
Thanks for having me on, y'all. That was great. That was an absolute blast. So anytime you want to invite me back, I'm happy to show up and defend my title.
I love it. It's a pleasure to have you. I know out in Seattle you don't have a giant eagle, and you probably don't know what Isley's Chip Chopped Ham is. But if you walk in to any giant eagle location and tell them you are the Halloween is Forever champ showdown for that month, you get half off Chip Chopped Ham to Giant Eagle. So I know that probably doesn't come into isn't going to come into effect for you too much, but for those of you who are interested in challenging for the championship in the future and do have a Giant Eagle in your greater metropolitan area, it's important to know that. All right, for the Halloween is Forever crew, I'm Brian.
I'm Steve.
I'm Meg.
I'm Ben.
I'm Halloween.
All right, see you around, you fucking spookies. Bye.
Bye.
I'm falling down a hole.